Today we'll be undergoing a major operation of the suspension of my 1979 280ZX. As you can see, I've got a massive collection of brand new parts that will be thrown into this thing today. Starting with the left, I've got a full set of sway bar bushings front and rear. I have a couple of front brake hoses. We have a set of tie rods, steering rack boots, ball joints, strut bearings, which are these small boxes on the top. I have strut bellows. Two front struts. They are not conies. These are actually some spare KYB gasojets that I had laying around, which have low miles on them. And some rear struts as well. In addition to that, we're going to be doing a little bit of trimming on the springs just to get a little extra stiffness out of it. So since I already have an in-depth explanation of suspension replacement on the 280ZX on my channel, which if you want to see that video, you can click right up here and you can watch that. This is going to be more of a time-lapse kind of style of video. We'll be taking a couple breaks in between clips to explain exactly what I'm doing if it's something that looks kind of unusual or challenging. But this is going to be a pretty fluid type video. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here to do. There's a lot of stuff to cover. And, you know, like I said, I've already done an in-depth explanation video on how to replace suspension on this car. So we're just going to kind of go through it. The first thing we're going to start with, of course, is the front struts. That's the most difficult to do on these cars. I mean, the rear struts, it's almost exactly the same as a 240SX. Very basic. But we're going to dive into the front. We got to take both spindles and strut assemblies completely out of the car. We have to disconnect the brakes, obviously the tie rods, the ball joints, so on and so forth. So we want to get that out of the way first. That way we have enough energy to do the rear, because we're going to try to cram all of this in one afternoon. So without any further ado, let's commence. Alright, so here's a close look at the state of the original suspension. Factory struts, yeah, they're looking greasy. They're definitely blown. You can see all this moisture around the shelf there on the coil and on the strut body itself. So that's not optimal. If you look in here, we can see the sway bar bushings being completely compressed. Ball joint looking minty to say the least. And tie rod, yeah, that's pretty good. And that's pretty much why I'm doing this. Not only is it good to do before you race your car on the track, but all this stuff is pretty original and pretty shot. Alright, so something important has happened when we remove the factory tie rod. A lot of times shops won't put anti-seize on these inner tie rod ends, and the tie rods will be an absolute bitch to get off. So what I had to do is I had to attach a wrench to the retaining nut and then put the jack underneath the wrench and literally jack the thing and have it break itself loose with who knows how many pounds of force. But that's what it took to get this tie rod end off. So that was a bitch. We couldn't really film it because, you know, I mean, you couldn't really see anything, unfortunately, but that's the method there. Then the tie rod just basically counterclockwise, it twists off of the inner tie rod here. So now let's just hope Rock Auto sent me the right replacement tie rod, so we're going to check that now. Okay, so luckily looks like we got the right ones. This one does look a little bit shorter though. You can see there's less of a shank, but that's okay. It'll all come with alignment. But yeah, you can pair. This thing is pretty shot. And one thing to mention with these Mevotechs is that it doesn't use a castle nut design. It uses the kind of a lock washer, whatever you call this, grommet locking nut design. So I'm not sure how well that's going to affect anything, but just to keep in mind if you prefer the other style with the castle nut. Okay, driver's side strut is out, and we just cannot get that last steering knuckle bolt out. I mean, this thing is just like I was bending the whole control arm was twisting as I was trying to loosen this thing. So again, these are only supposed to be 40 foot-pounds. So this is why you don't take your Japanese sports car to an Italian-run fucking gas station, because they'll just rat-tat-tat it with an air gun and that's it. So we got a vise, we got some poles, we got some breaker bars, and we're just gonna give her fucking all the way. Okay. All right, we should be good now. Okay. Now let's. Yeah, I mean they're not damaged, luckily, but not even rusty. They're just torqued to absolute high holy hell. So now let's move the
moose knuckle.
Yeah, the moose knuckle. Take two.
We're having fun. Rule number 1, have fun. Yeah, bitch! Yeah! We got it off, but that bitch was tighter than a fucking
Taking a quick glizzy break. Fucking throating that thing. Jesus. Alright, so here's the situation. We had to stop filming because we ran into a conundrum. And this is very important. So, these aftermarket Mvotech ball joints are not correct. For one thing, I mean the bolt pattern is too shallow, so they're offset forward too far. Not only that, compared to a stock one, there isn't an inset for it to fit over the control arm. It's actually the opposite. It protrudes out the bottom, which does not allow it to fit properly on the control arm. This is a used one I got from my other 280ZX when I did the Techno Toy tuning control arms, and it's in good shape. This is what I had to end up using on that car. So I would definitely, whatever this is, I would avoid this brand. Do not buy this brand because it's not going to fit right on your car, unfortunately. So that was a huge snag, but luckily the driver's side is all done. We've done everything. We got the strut back in. We got the spring cut. Sway bar bushings are replaced. We got a new brake hose in there. She spins. And we are pretty much all set to move on to the next side. Okay.
We have a strapping young man helping us today with wheel number 2.
Yep, we're on stage 2. We're going to be ripping it down the same way we did on the driver's side. Take the brakes off first, sway bar end links, and tie rod, and then hopefully these nuts for the ball joints won't give us as hard of a time as last time. But if we do, then we know how to get them off with conventional warfare. All right, let's see let's see if we can break something in half here. All right. All right, well this trick worked. Boys and girls, if you got a 280ZX and your retaining nut for your tie rod will not come off, get yourself a large spanner, a jack, and just let her send all the way up and she will bust loose. So now, let's just unscrew the whole damn thing, shall we? Actually, Now someone needs to hold that end while you unscrew the whole rod.
Oh, that's nasty.
So as you can see, the steering rack boot on the passenger side is totally shot, and I'll be replacing it with a new one.
Wait, there, now we got it.
Alright, so we got one bolt out on the other side with the impact, but this one is being a little bit stubborn, so we gotta do a little bit of shock and awe here. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we might have to do this one with the strut out. Probably do it with the strut out. Alright, we're gonna take the strut out. Alright, here's the other method of getting this thing off. Oh, fuck.
Oh, fuck.
Oh,
there we go. Yeah. Get there, way.
All right, passenger side strut assembly is all in. This one was much easier than the last one for whatever reason. And now I'm just going through everything, torquing everything up. As you can see, we have the new sway bar end link. We've got the quote-unquote new ball joint, new bellows, freshly cut spring, new strut cartridge inside. Also got the new tie rod back here, as well as it's a tie rod boot as well, which doesn't really fit that well. I had to cut it, but whatever, a boot's a boot. And after a couple torques, we are going to be bleeding the brakes and putting her back together. There she goes. All right. Okay, so the car is back on the ground, flipped around. Now we can do the rear suspension. So as far as the rear springs go, I want to cut a little more than the front, simply because there's a lot more coils on the rear spring than on the front spring. So in order to make it consistent, you have to cut more off to make the lowering equal. So I cut 1/2 a coil in the front for like 1/2 inch of low. Here I think I'm going to cut 3/4 of a coil off.